This is Dr. Mark Hitchcock, and we're back for another installment of Marking the Times. And you all been sending in some really good questions. I appreciate that, by getting some good feedback from you. And our website went down a couple weeks ago. I appreciate some of you calling in and letting us know about that. And so that's all back up now. But we appreciate you following on Facebook and sending in some good questions. And I got a really good question. I want to talk about signs of the times. You know, people are often interested in what's going on in our world and how these things are what we might call discernible signs of the times. And one person sent this question in, says, I realize there are no signs before the rapture. So when will the earthquakes and pestilence and love wax cold, etc. take place? And what that's a reference to is Matthew chapter 24, which often is called the Olivet Discourse. On the Wednesday before Jesus died on Friday, he went up to the Mount of Olives, just east of the city of Jerusalem. It looks down over the city. And he gave a great eschatological or prophetic discourse to his disciples. Remember, they asked him the question. Jesus had said, that the city of Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. The temple would be destroyed. Not one stone would be left upon another. And they said, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming into the end of the age? And so Jesus goes on and gives signs of his coming and of the end of the age in Matthew 24, verses 4 and following. Now, I believe that the rapture is an imminent event. You all have heard me say that before. And by imminency, what we mean is it's an event that can happen at any moment. I mean, it's an event that's certain that it will happen, but it's uncertain when it will happen. So we believe that the rapture is a signless event. That is, it could happen at any moment. But in Matthew 24, Jesus gives all these signs, which, by the way, one of the things that tells us is Jesus believed in signs of the times. Sometimes you'll hear people that are, very negative and kind of just scoff at the idea of signs of the times. Why even consider those kinds of things? When the disciples asked Jesus, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age? He gives a long litany of signs here in Matthew chapter 24, and it culminates with the sign of the Son of Man appearing and Jesus returning in great glory and majesty to the earth. But my view is, and again, not everybody agrees with this, but my view is that Matthew 24 is dealing with the second coming of Jesus, or what I call the return, not the rapture. At this time, the rapture was still a mystery. When we get to 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says, behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep. We'll all be changed in a moment and twinkling of an eye. So the idea of a rapture was still a mystery at this time. And Jesus here is dealing with his return in glory, his second coming. And so I believe all the signs that are here in Matthew 24 are signs of the return, not signs of the rapture. In other words, the rapture will take place, and then during the tribulation period that will begin to unfold. In fact, Jesus calls these the beginning of birth pangs. He calls it a time of great tribulation. These are the signs then during the tribulation that will portend and lead to the second coming of Jesus. So when he talks about earthquakes in various places, when he talks about nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, wars, rumors of wars, famines, all these kinds of things, these are things that will be happening during the tribulation period. It's interesting, if you take Matthew 24 and you go to Revelation chapter 6, they mirror one another. It starts out in Matthew 24 with false Christs and false messiahs. And in Revelation chapter 6, the first seal that's opened is a rider on a white horse who goes to take peace from the earth. Then you have wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. The second seal in Revelation 6 is a rider on a red horse who goes out and takes peace from the earth. You go on and they mirror, parallel one another. So wherever you put Matthew 24, you have to put Revelation 6, because the two passages are parallel to one another. So what I believe is after the rapture takes place someday, these events of false messiahs, a wave of false messiahs, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, earthquakes, there'll be time of tribulation that's mentioned here. That's when these things will occur. So when people today look at earthquakes and famines and those kinds of things and try to relate it to this passage in Matthew 24, I think that they're kind of jumping the gun, if you will. After the rapture takes place, these birth pangs will begin to come in crashing waves upon the earth. Now, you say, well, Do earthquakes and famines today relate at all to these things? Well, I mean, we do see earthquakes in our world today. We see famines. I mean, we've always seen those kinds of things, though, throughout human history. During this period of time, they're going to be ratcheted up in a major way. There'll be no mistaking then, during the tribulation, that these are birth pangs that are leading up to the coming of the Messiah. So the rapture is a signless event, no signs for the rapture, but after the rapture, these things then will begin to take place that will be the signs that Jesus said will immediately portend his second coming back to earth. So anyway, I hope that clears up a little bit about signs of the times and how it relates to Jesus' great discourse here in Matthew chapter 24. Thank you again for joining us for this week. God bless you. Hope you have a great week.